right, what's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for joining us. Good to be here. Everybody tuning in, PTL Nation. Of course, Really American Network. My YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show, the website, pushingthelimits.live. And we appreciate you being here. We have some very special guests lined up for you. Coming up here in just a few minutes, I've been wanting to talk to this guy for a very long time. His name is Shabbaz Kestenbaum. He's an American Jewish activist and political commentator. I see him on Piers Morgan all the time. Very pro-Israel. Very pro Benjamin Netanyahu. I have a feeling we're going to get into it. So when he gets here in a few minutes, we will be talking with him. And then this is another interesting story. I'm sure you guys have probably heard about this by now. This Jubilee debate between Mehdi Hassan and a bunch of white supremacists. I mean, really, most of them were. Not all of them. And I think one of the more reasonable ones, his name is Cyrus Ojadi. He was there. He debated Mehdi Hassan. He actually lives here in Las Vegas, and he's going to join us in studio. We're going to talk about that absolute crazy, insane debate. And we will get to that in a little bit at the bottom of the hour, as Cyrus will be joining us in studio for that. So that is going to be very, very interesting. Just another day in the world of Donald Trump, where he was asked about Maxwell, and could you pardon Maxwell? And he said, well, I can do it. I have the right to do it. I mean, can you imagine if Joe Biden or a Democrat responded in that way? One of the biggest sex traffickers in the history of this country. And Donald Trump has nothing but nice things to say about Maxwell. I wish her well. I have the right to pardon her. I mean, it really is sick. It really is absolutely and positively disgusting. But I do want to play this clip for you, clip 3, because I think it's important. And this is when Donald Trump was asked about this Jeffrey Epstein birthday letter. And he was asked about it yesterday. And we've learned that this letter does exist, that Donald Trump did write this letter to Jeffrey Epstein. It is sitting somewhere. And Donald Trump was asked about it, and listen to him. It's almost like the excuse that he makes of the dog ate my homework. Listen to this.
Did not write a letter for Jeffrey Epstein's birthday.
I don't even know what they're talking about. Now, somebody could have written a letter and used my name, but that's happened a lot. All you have to do is take a look at the dossier, the fake dossier. Everything's fake with that administration. Everything's fake with the Democrats. Take a look at what they just found about the dossier. Everything is fake. They're a bunch of sick people. Where did you see the people laying outside? Exactly?
Right across the street from Lafayette Park, sir, towards 15.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, everything is fake. Obama made up the letter. Maybe he wrote the letter. Joe Biden and Barack Obama created the Epstein files. If they did get the letter to Epstein on his birthday, Donald Trump didn't write it. It was somebody else that wrote it. I mean, it really is absolutely insane. All right. So the guy, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit, but the guy joining us right now, I've been wanting to get him on the show for a long time. He's an American Jewish activist, and he's a political commentator. He actually does Piers Morgan quite a bit, as I do as well. And I've always wanted to get him on the show to talk about, of course, what's going on between the Israel-Palestinian conflict and Iran. His name is Shabbaz Kestenbaum, and he joins us right now on the program. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Good to be here.
I appreciate you coming on. I really do. I want to ask you this to start. Do you agree with me that if you criticize the Israeli government, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're anti-Semitic? Because there are some people that feel that way. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think I know of people who think that criticizing the Israeli government is anti-Semitic. I mean, I took part in the judicial reform protests 4 years ago at Kaplan Square, along with 200,000 other Israelis. So I think that's an argument that's really been hijacked by the mainstream media. I don't really think there's a serious contention that anyone is making that you can't criticize the state of Israel or the Israeli government. I mean, if you go on Twitter, it's really the only thing that people seem to do. So no, it's certainly not anti-Semitic.
We certainly agree on that. Now, is it fair to characterize you as a staunch supporter and fan of Benjamin Netanyahu? Is that fair?
No, I don't support Benjamin Netanyahu. In fact, I'm not Israeli. I'm an American. So I cannot vote in the Israeli elections. But if I could, I would not be voting for him or his coalition. When I was much younger, I was in support of Yair Lapid of Yesh Atid. I think Benny Gantz, should he run again, and his Kahol, I think it was Kahol V'Lavan, I think that was his party name. I saw sort of like a 2008 Barack Obama in him. But unfortunately, opposition in Israel doesn't really exist. It's sort of the problem that the Republicans had in 2016, whereby they were against Donald Trump, but because there were 16 different options, Donald Trump still won. So too, the opposition in Israel has like 15 different people, and because they can't coalesce around one person, Benjamin Netanyahu will probably be prime minister for as long as he continues to run for re-election.
Well, we certainly agree on that as well. Would you also agree with me that an innocent Palestinian child killed is just as bad as an innocent Israeli child killed, or for that matter, any innocent person in Israel or Gaza? Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, of course. I haven't heard the argument to the contrary. In fact, as a religious Jew, the Talmud is quite clear at the end of what's called the Tractate of Horios, which is a tractate of the Talmud. It actually is very clear that we don't know whose blood is redder than the other. So certainly any innocent life is a tragedy.
So I'm trying to understand this then, because we seem to agree. Why is it that you think you're attacked so much? I mean, I saw you on Piers Morgan the other day. You were called, for lack of a better term, you were called a bitch. You were sworn at. You were yelled at. You were screamed at. You seem to have some pretty reasonable views on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Why do you think you are attacked so much, my friend?
That's something you need to ask Anna Kasparian and Gideon Levy and people on the very far left. I've been called in the last couple of days a Nazi, a bitch, a piece of shit. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on your show.
No cursing, but that's okay.
Sorry, but I've been called very nasty things. I've received death threats, multiple death threats since the Piers Morgan appearance. I get that this issue animates a lot of people emotionally. We hate to see innocent life being spilled. The problem is that's a consequence of starting a war, and unfortunately, in all war, innocent life is being spilled. But in terms of like the name calling, it's really sad. And as I think I said on Piers Morgan's show, I grew up on the far left. I actually made a YouTube account when I was in 8th or 9th grade, specifically to subscribe to the Young Turks, because Cenk Uygur and Anna Kasparian were quite influential in my political upbringing. And to actually meet them, or at least virtually meet them in real life, and to see the vitriol and the hatred is really sad. And it's difficult on a personal level, because I certainly respected them. And to just be called names and be sworn at, that's not going to get us to a long-lasting just peace. It's a way that you can get clicks on social media. Anna's obviously doing quite well on Twitter. That clip of her calling me the B word has gone pretty viral. But unfortunately, that's just the media that she has normalized, accepted, and celebrated. I certainly denounce that. And I would hope that someone double my age would denounce it as well. But evidently, she doesn't want to.
I denounce it, and I don't know why she went after you like that. Obviously, you don't want innocent people to die anywhere, whether it's Gaza or Palestinians or Israelis. We all want this war to end. Let's get into a little bit more specifics with you, if I may. Yeah. Obviously, we have, whether you want to call it a humanitarian issue or what have you, there's a lot of children and adults that are dying in Gaza because they don't have food. They have food insecurity, and it appears as though the Israeli government certainly has a lot to do with that. I would imagine you don't condone that, right?
I don't condone innocent civilians suffering during war. Of course not. And again, I don't know of anyone who does that. Who does condone and support the deliberate starving of people. My contention, and this is where I would imagine we would disagree, is I've been to the Kerem Shalom border crossing. I have family in the Israel Defense Forces. I have friends, Muslim friends, Jewish friends, Christian friends who are serving in Gaza at the moment. There is no deliberate mass starvation of the Palestinian people. On the contrary, more aid has gone into Gaza post-October 7th than pre-October 7th. If Israel was trying to starve the Palestinian people, then why would they invest hundreds of millions of dollars into the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation? I mean, I know Reverend Johnny Moore personally, who oversees that operation. It's an incredibly difficult job. It's incredibly thankless, because you're trying to feed innocent civilians, whereby the dictatorial theological regime of Hamas is trying to capitalize and hijack the starvation of Palestinians by shooting indiscriminately at these aid sites, by stealing the aid that has routinely come into Gaza. And I agree with Piers, and I don't know your show, but I imagine you've stated this previously, how come journalists aren't allowed in? I would agree with you. I want you, and I want Piers, and I want CNN to see what I have seen, to go to the Kerem Shalom border crossing so they could see the...
Why are they not allowing journalists, though? What do you think their reasoning could be behind that? Because I agree with you, but I don't understand why. Why are they doing that?
Sure. So two ways of answering it. First of all, they are allowing some journalists in. So yesterday, for example, the Israel Foreign Ministry did allow a select group of journalists who I'm sure you probably saw. You could search on Twitter images of it. NBC affiliates were allowed in, and they were able to see the pallets of literally mountains of food and baby formula and medicine that are basically just wasting away because the World Food Program and the UN RWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, refused to allow the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation to take that food and distribute it themselves. The UN said either we do it ourselves or you're not allowed to touch it. So I agree, you should be able to see that. In terms of why, it's basically two reasons. One, standard military rule, and this is true of the UK, it's true of France, it's even true of the United States. Standard military rule do not allow journalists access into active war zones. It just is not a thing. Now, there could be exceptions. So, for example, some journalists on certain conditions were able to go to the Ukrainian front lines, but it's not a given because the objective of a war is to win the war. It's not really to allow journalists to feel good and to tell the story. It's to win a war. But still, I agree with you. In many cases, journalists should be allowed in. The second argument that I would imagine the Israeli government is not allowing journalists in is because if individuals like Piers Morgan, who are already saying that Israel is indiscriminately killing innocent civilians and they're indiscriminately killing journalists, and then when you put a journalist in an active war zone in a very dense urban environment where the enemy combatant don't even wear uniforms of a military, they wear civilian clothing, and then inadvertently a journalist is killed. Well, you can imagine what the audiences in the Western world would say. Israel is once again indiscriminately targeting journalists. So Israel probably took the attitude of, we just don't want to take that risk to begin with, because again, the objective is to win the war. But again, I agree. I think certain journalists should be allowed in. There's no reason why Piers Morgan should not be allowed to see the mountains of food that is just wasting away because the UN in their bureaucracy, to put it mildly, is refusing to allow other agencies to distribute it.
I'm wondering what you make of Donald Trump's comments, months back when he said he was going to own Gaza, which is obviously absolutely ridiculous. Benjamin Netanyahu saying that Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, we're bombing Iran. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts there?
Well, actually, I mean, to piggyback on that last point, I actually do think bombing Iran, I don't know if it would be a category for a Nobel Peace Prize, but I actually do think that creates peace. I think one of the problems, and again, I grew up as a socialist, I grew up on the far left. So one of the ideologies we had is the only way you achieve peace is with diplomacy, and you sort of pretend that all nations are equal and want the same thing. And that's just not true. I mean, Iran has in the center of Tehran, they have a clock that counts down the day in which Israel will be obliterated. So by taking out their nuclear sites, I think that actually does usher in peace, because now you will not have a nuclear armed race whereby Saudi Arabia has already stated that should Iran receive nuclear weapons, that Saudi Arabia would be forced to develop their own nuclear weapons. So I think the targeted airstrikes on nuclear facilities was actually a great thing.
But Shabbaz, here's my issue. Sorry to interrupt you, but Shabbaz, here's my issue with this. First of all, Iran had a couple days to prepare for this. There are trucks that are seen that were leaving that facility days before the attack. Our own intelligence tells us that maybe they were set back 2 to 3 months. Tulsi Gabbard is under oath several months ago saying they have not furthered their nuclear capabilities, according to our own intelligence. Why should we believe Benjamin Netanyahu? Why should we believe the Israeli intelligence, the same intelligence that told us under George W. Bush that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction?
Well, that's just a general question of why believe authority, which is just a whole different conversation to begin with. It's like saying, well, we were told that there were weapons of mass destruction, so now why should we trust the TSA to take off our shoes? I mean, that's just a different conversation about who do we trust and why would you trust experts? You know, I listened to Dr. Fauci when he said wear masks, but the CDC has a record of lying, so why should we believe them now? It's a different conversation to have of why do you just trust people of authority? But in terms of Tulsi Gabbard, because you mentioned her specifically, she did not say that it was set back 2-3 months. In fact, she actually had to clarify because her testimony in front of, I think it was the Foreign Affairs Committee, was taken out of context. And she was very clear that she supports the strike of nuclear facilities. And it didn't set it back by 2-3 months. It set it back by years. In terms of the trucks, radioactive material is not something you could sort of just like put on a truck. It's not something you kind of just like take away. It's much more complicated than that.
Who said though that it was back years? Who made that statement?
Oh my! Almost the entirety of the American intelligence community. The CIA had their own report. The NSA had their own report. Pete Hegseth had his own report.
Right. Members of the Trump administration have said that it was obliterated or obliterated. But I hear what you're saying there. Of course, Pete Hegseth and people in Trump's administration are going to say what a wonderful success it is. But the evidence just does not prove that. There's no evidence to prove that. I guess that's the point that I'm trying to make. And we've been listening to this for 30 to 40 years, that they have these nuclear weapons. We've been hearing the same thing for 30 to 40 years. I mean, at what point do we just say, maybe this isn't true?
No one has ever made the case that they have nuclear weapons. People have been making the case that they are trying to achieve nuclear weapons.
But we've been hearing that for 30 to 40 years. What's changed now? What's changed?
I don't think I'm following the question. For 30 to 40 years, they have been trying to achieve nuclear weapons. They said this openly. That's why the Obama administration had to come out with the JCPOA, because it was obvious that when Iran was enriching their uranium above 60%, they were trying to achieve nuclear breakout. That's why the Ayatollah Khamenei repeatedly says on his Friday sermons that they are going to try to bomb Israel with a nuclear weapon. They said this openly. In fact, the Iranian foreign minister, I can't pronounce his name, so you'll have to forgive me, but he himself said that the targeted strikes did set back their nuclear program by a couple of years. So I think the evidence is pretty airtight. Based on satellite imagery, the Iranian military has not been able to access those sites, because when you drop a B-2 bomber, it really encapsulates the entire area, so they're not even able to go in anymore. But again, going back to your original question, Iran is a nuclear threat no more. But the question was, Benjamin Netanyahu was saying that President Trump should have a Nobel Peace Prize for trying to achieve peace in the Middle East. Look, I don't know what the criteria is for a Nobel Peace Prize, but what I will say is the Abraham Accords. That has drastically changed the geopolitical makeup of the Middle East. The fact that you now have, just on a superficial level, you now have direct flights from Tel Aviv to Doha, that would have been unheard of. But more importantly, you have economic exchanges, you have diplomacy, you have bilateral relationships. Again, I don't know what the criteria is for Nobel Peace Prize, but that did achieve regional peace to a certain extent. In terms of occupying Gaza, that of course I'm against, and I don't think Prime Minister Netanyahu said that. I think President Trump was saying, we're going to annex Gaza, and that's silly. But what I will say is, anytime there is a war, forget about Gaza for a second, but anytime there is a war, the natural response is, okay, well, if you have an innocent civilian population that is experiencing a war, well, we want to evacuate them. I'm a descendant of Holocaust survivors. They were evacuated because they were experiencing a war. And for someone who's still somewhat of a liberal, I don't really seem to understand why that has become a controversial take, or why that is considered ethnic cleansing, where no, you want to safely evacuate the innocent population.
Well, displacing millions of Palestinians, you can consider that to be ethnic cleansing. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're murdering millions of people. But when you say you're going to displace millions of people, I think that could be defined as ethnic cleansing.
No, by definition. You're confusing two things. One thing is like the forced displacement of an ethnic group as a political policy of, we've taken over land, you must all leave. Then there's another thing entirely of, you're in the middle of a war and you don't want innocent civilians to be killed. And there are many Gazans, I'm forgetting which poll it was, but there have been many Gazans who, when polled, said, we want to leave if we were given the option during this war, and then we will want to come back. And I don't see why that would be problematic at all. In fact, Europe and the United States and really Western countries have been quite liberal and quite generous in terms of the Syrian refugees that they have taken in the last few years, because there's a Syrian civil war. No one told the people of Syria, actually, you need to stay in Syria while there's this horrific bombardment, there's horrific war. We need you to stay, otherwise it would be ethnic cleansing. It's just a very bizarre line of argument. Instead, we say we will take Syrian refugees on a temporary status. In fact, in the United States, the program is literally called temporary assistance to refugees. And when the war is over, they will go back. And I don't see why Gaza should be any different. They're experiencing a war. Unfortunately, it was started by their own government, which complicates things. and they should be able to go through humanitarian corridors, be safe during the duration of the war, so Israel can do the military operations like taking out Hamas, and when the war is over, they'll go back. And the argument of ethnic cleansing, I just find it a little strange, because we're actually nearing the 20-year anniversary in 2 weeks from now of when Israel unilaterally gave up Gaza. They forcibly displaced 15,000 Jews who were living in Gaza, and they said, you have to leave because
which I disagree with.
We want the entire area to Gaza. So if Israel wants to ethnically cleanse Gaza and Gaza from Palestinians, then why would they give all the land to the Palestinians? So again, this is it's a war. It's terrible. There are innocent civilians being killed, and we want to protect innocent civilians. So be safely evacuated. When the war is over, come back.
Yeah. Last question for you, Shabbaz, and I do appreciate you coming on. This was my last kind of in generalization of how I feel about this whole thing. Obviously, Hamas is a despicable terrorist organization. What they did to all these innocent Israelis is beyond despicable. Everybody should call that out. And I don't hear Rashida Tlaib calling out Hamas. I don't hear Ilhan Omar calling out Hamas. Everybody should call out Hamas for what they are. They're no better than Al-Qaeda, and it's despicable. With that being said, the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, have a responsibility. They have the right to defend themselves. As Kamala Harris said, we would have done the same thing. However, they also have a responsibility for the least amount of innocent casualties. I believe that Benjamin Netanyahu has committed war crimes. I do believe that. I would imagine you probably disagree with me on that. But I have criticized the Israeli government, and I also understand it's very difficult to have a good faith conversation with someone from Palestine, a Palestinian who doesn't think that Israel should exist, period. It's very difficult to have a good faith conversation with somebody like that, because I think that's insane. But with that being said, too many innocent people have died. I don't think Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government have done a good enough job. And that's my personal opinion here. I don't think America should have gotten involved in this war. We've given Israel over $450 billion. I think this is Israel's war. We've heard that, Iran has these capabilities for 30 to 40 years. I don't believe Iran is a direct threat to the United States of America. I believe this is Israel's war. I would imagine you probably disagree with some of the stuff I said there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Number one, Iran currently doesn't pose a threat to the United States simply because of the United States' actions against Iran. Iran has the blood of Americans on their hands. They were directly implicated by the Pentagon's own assessment with murdering more than 1,000 American soldiers in Iraq. They were directly implicated in the bombing of the U.S. embassy in Beirut, which killed 280 Marines. Iran is really the head of the snake here. They're the ones who are directly funding Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. All of these proxy groups cannot exist without the money from Iran. So Iran 100% has the blood of American lives on their hands. That is uncontested. And to be clear, no one was making the case that Iran had nuclear weapons. They were making the case that Iran was developing nuclear weapons. And again, that was never contested by Western countries, whether it's satellite imagery, whether it's the amount of enriched uranium that they had, whether it was fortifying their bases underneath mountains. It was quite apparent that Iran was developing nuclear weapons. Going back to the original question that you just asked about Israel, I'm certainly happy to criticize the Israeli government. As I said, I would not be voting for Benjamin Netanyahu. I was never a supporter of Benjamin Netanyahu. It happens to be I'm not Israeli, so my criticism of Israeli policy doesn't really do much because it doesn't really shape the reality on the ground. What I will say is, yes, too many innocent civilians have been killed, but a lot of that is because Hamas, and again, this is really uncontested, Hamas deliberately build missile launchers. They build their network of terror tunnels, which is larger than the London Metro, underneath hospitals, underneath schools, underneath homes of innocent civilians. So it's very difficult when you are trying to engage in an urban environment, urban warfare, and all of a sudden you have rocket launchers from children's rooms. And this is not hyperbole or speculation. This is, number one, well documented. Number two, I have friends and families who are in Gaza currently or have served in Gaza. And the pictures they have taken, the evidence they have shown demonstrably that we had to go into little kids' bedrooms because there were rocket launchers being fired there. Because Hamas knows that if they use human shields, Israel will be less likely to target those locations, which is why Israel has one of the lowest combatant to civilian ratio, death rate, mortality ratios of any war fought in modern warfare. I agree. Innocent civilians are being killed. That is a consequence of starting a war that you really have no hope of winning, which is why we should call on people like Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar or Piers Morgan and Anna Kasparian. If you don't want to see the innocent bloodshed of Palestinians, call on Hamas to surrender. As much as we criticize the far right, like Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, and to a certain extent Benjamin Netanyahu, the foreign minister Gideon Sa'ar, the war cabinet, Prime Minister Bibi, they've stated openly and routinely on public television, the moment Hamas surrenders and release the hostages, we're done. It's over. There was a ceasefire on October 6th. Hamas decided to violate the ceasefire, and unfortunately, we're seeing the consequences of that disastrous military decision.
I will say this in your defense. While we don't agree on everything, I will say this. If you poll, we've seen polls from Palestinians, and more than half of Palestinians support Hamas. I find that to be absolutely and positively despicable. I don't know if you've seen those polls, but I mean, how can you have a good faith conversation with somebody that supports Hamas? I know I can't. And I don't like the way they treated you on Piers Morgan. You could agree to disagree and have conversations like this, which I think are important. And I do appreciate you coming on. Maybe one of these days we'll be on a Piers Morgan panel together. That would be interesting. Yeah, I don't like the way Anna treated you. I thought she was way out of line. And I thought you handled it as well as you could. There's a way to have these kinds of very difficult conversations, but I think more and more we need more of these conversations. So Shabbaz, thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate your time, my friend, and love to have you on again down the road. Thank you so much.
Great. Take care. Thanks.
Appreciate that. That's Shabbaz Kastenbaum, everybody, a regular on national television, an American Jewish activist and political commentator. Listen, we don't agree on everything. I have maybe a little bit more criticism of the Israeli government than Shabbaz does, but we both agree we don't want innocent people to lose their lives. And by the way, I am not a defender of Benjamin Netanyahu, and anybody on here that would say that, you're wrong. I think he's horrible. I think he's horrible for Israel. I think he's horrible for America. I think he's coddled Donald Trump so that Trump could get involved in this war. I am not a Benjamin Netanyahu fan at all. I am not a fan of the Israeli government. I do not think we should be involved in this war. However, I do support Israel in a sense that I want them to exist and I want them to be free, and I don't want innocent people to die in Gaza or Israel. I want this war to end. That's how I feel. All right, so here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, a guy by the name of Cyrus Hojadi is going to be joining us on the show. He was one of those people who was debating Mehdi Hassan in that Jubilee debate that went viral for a lot of different reasons. It was crazy. There were a lot of white supremacists at this debate. He is a Donald Trump supporter, so we're probably going to get into a good debate, but I'm looking forward to speaking with him, and we'll let you ask him some questions as well. Cyrus is going to be joining us in studio next. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super hero, that is, because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and fees. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helb's Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
You are way too smart, way too talented, way too good to be where you are. You are meant to be making way more money, feel way hotter in your body, and having way more fun. Hi, I'm Nicole Mitchell, and I'm a life coach. I help you get hotter, and richer. If that is what you're looking for, you can find me at NicoleMitchell.com. My name, Nicole, is with a K, NicoleMitchell.com. You can reach out to me on my website or on Instagram, and I will be happy to be in touch and figure out what you're looking for and how I can support you in getting there.
Get ready, football.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It is Pushing the Limits on a Friday. Thank you so much for being here. I don't know why I can't hear anything in my headphones, but that's okay. Well, there we go. That's better. Welcome back to the show, everybody. So, as you know, this Jubilee debate with Mehdi Hasan went viral. And the reason why, there's a lot of reasons why a lot of these clips went viral. First of all, I think there were a lot of crazy people that were debating Mehdi Hasan, Nazis and fascists, and it was absolutely bat you know what off the wall crazy. So the guy we have with us in studio right now, I don't consider him one of those people, even though we might not agree on everything. He was one of those people that was debating Mehdi Hasan, and I wanted to get him in studio to kind of talk about that. His name is Cyrus Ojadi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right.
Yes,
Cyrus.
thank you.
And you were one of those people that debated Mehdi Hasan. Thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. First radio show. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. Let's get right into this. There were a lot of people in this debate, one of whom called himself a fascist and a Nazi sympathizer. There was another guy there that was telling Mehdi Hasan, go back to your country. I'm wondering what is going through your mind. And I want to preface this by you voted for Trump, but you don't necessarily consider yourself a MAGA. Okay. You voted for Bernie Sanders in 2016. What the hell is going through your mind when you see some of these crazy people? It sounded like they were white supremacists. What is going through your mind when this is happening?
I thought they were very harsh, definitely. I thought that when they were saying these things to him, I was like, come on, hit the brakes. Just don't shake him up too much. What do you got against this guy? Have a calm, civil debate. And I don't want to be misunderstood. I originally didn't want to go on this title or the theme of the show. Originally, it was supposed to be 20 people versus one against DEI. And then they canceled that segment. So I just picked far right because it was the only slot available. And I was visiting my relatives in Southern California. That's where their studio was. So I just wanted to say, hey, I just want to be on the show. And I wanted to talk to Mehdi and just get my word out there.
But Cyrus, I think some of these people in that, and I'm not categorizing you in this group, but a lot of people in this group, I just thought they were absolutely despicable people. The things they were saying, the racism, the bigotry, the hatred. And Mehdi Hasan, say what you want about the guy. I haven't always agreed with him, but I think he's a really intelligent guy.
Yeah.
And I thought he showed a lot of composure. You have people that are saying, get out of our country. He's a U.S. citizen.
They've told me that too.
Well, how could you talk to what? Okay, let me play a clip and then let's get into this, because this is the part that we're probably going to disagree on. This was you, okay, Cyrus, debating Mehdi Hasan on this Jubilee debate. And I want to play this first clip. This is clip number 1. And this is Cyrus debating Mehdi Hasan. Have a listen to this.
I understand that there are people in this audience that don't like me or you in this country. And I respect that. There's some that don't even want me to date a blonde woman. They want to keep to their own, or ginger or whatever. I respect that.
Why? Why would you respect someone that, Cyrus, I think you're a nice guy. We've met before. Why would you respect somebody who judges you based on the color of your skin? Why would you say that?
Well, it's a very rude and harsh thing to do. And again, when it comes to dating, it's the same concept. They don't want to lose their influence in this country or around the world. A lot of them still tell me, stay away from those women. We are not comfortable having you here.
Well, they're racist. They're horrible people that say that to you.
It's their freedom of speech.
Listen, I agree.
That's what I mean. Yeah,
I agree. But there's a difference, in my opinion, Cyrus, between freedom of speech and saying, I respect you. For example, If there's somebody on the street
They
right
have their
now that
opinions.
says, I hate black people, or I hate white people, or I hate Jews, whatever the case, yes, it's freedom of speech. But if I drive by them, I would probably throw out an expletive and I'd say, you're a horrible human being. I wouldn't
It's a
say,
crappy thing to do.
well, it's just, you're a horrible person.
You know, one of the marchers in Charlottesville, Patrick Casey, he had an organization. He deliberately told me you can't join. And I'm like, how could you judge me just from my outside to think automatically I'd be a negative influence on your organization? That's what I'm opposed. Judging individuals is not the same as groups.
But why do you respect those people? I don't understand.
They have their points of view, and everybody's points of view. Communists, it doesn't matter. You have to allow them to speak, provide evidence, and make informed decisions.
Okay,
maybe there might be 1% of something they may be right.
But if somebody starts squealing out the N-word, your response. No. Well, what these people were doing in here to me was just as bad.
What they were doing does not reflect what I was spewing.
I'm not saying you're this person. I'm not trying to attack you.
I'm just making sure.
I'm not attacking you because you weren't making those statements. All I'm trying to understand from you, and let me play another clip, because this is another clip. And by the way, I wish you had more time to debate Mehdi Hasan, because I actually thought you were one of the more reasonable people, and I've said that. But this is the point where I believe Mehdi Hasan agrees with me, and this is clip number 2, where you're getting into it with Mehdi Hasan about these crazy people with their weird views.
Part of the reason he got in is that people in this room want people like me and you to leave, and they voted for him to try and make that happen.
I'm not surprised. One of the Charlottesville marchers doesn't like me, and I've met those people, and I respect their views.
You really shouldn't.
Well, they're wants.
Don't respect racists and fascists, is my advice to you.
Well, they have their preferences. You know, that's just, we can't change that.
Actually, we can. That's why I tried to come in today, but anyway.
All right. So that's the point that I'm trying to make, and I agree with Mehdi Hasan. You're talking about Charlottesville when Donald Trump said there are good people on both sides. It's a difference between having it, like, we probably have different points of views on Donald Trump, and we'll get into that. My point that I'm trying to make is, I want people like you in this country. I don't care what the color of your skin is. I would never tell you to go back to your country.
Same here.
And I don't respect people that are racist. I don't respect people that judge people based on skin color.
I think I used the wrong term. I was so nervous, and I had a word fart or whatever.
Okay.
But here's the thing. It's the same equivalency if somebody said that I hate white people. I want to bring millions into this country to outnumber them. I want them to be gone in the UK and Europe. And I think they're the scum of the earth. It's the same equivalency of that, you know. And I'm Persian of Iranian descent. We personally say nasty things about every race, including white people,
which is also wrong.
Yeah.
And I think Mehdi Hasan is pretty consistent, and I think I'm very consistent on that. There were some white people in that crowd that sounded like a Klan rally, Cyrus. I'm not gaslighting here. It sounded like you were sitting at a Klan rally. And
dark.
It was hard for me to watch that. It was hard. Yeah. Okay. And these are not people on the left. I'm sorry, they're just not.
Well, here's what I wanted to talk about Piers Morgan. I just want to get to the chase. I don't care, you know, let's just say, for an example, if we had European immigration come to the United States, okay, we're still going to have many of the same problems: traffic, schools, language. We have many European immigrants living in Las Vegas competing for jobs. It's the same, similar kind of whatever. But I believe that the Chamber of Commerce, Wall Street, the politicians don't have our best interests in this art. That's what bothers me.
I think most of them don't. I agree with you.
And there was some, you know, Hispanic music next door. That didn't bother me, but it does bother some people. And
they're idiots. Why can't you?
But it bothers them.
They're idiots.
No, but
it shouldn't bother them.
But
they're
if you
idiots.
had 100,000 of them move to Japan and South Korea and Philippines, it's going to create a little bit of distrust. People
but
naturally...
if somebody doesn't like Hispanic music because it's a different language, or they don't like rap and they make incendiary comments, they're idiots. Now, listen, if I don't like a certain type of music, it's not because of the color of their skin or the origin of it. I don't like country music. It's not because most country singers are white. I just don't like the music.
Me too, for the most part. What I'm pointing out is that diversity has issues. My aunt lives in Tehran. They've had some Afghan refugees. Afghan refugees are kind of like the Latinos of that country doing low-level jobs. She's unhappy about it. You find that every country in the world, you do polls, you'll show that they're less likely to want to live with a neighbor with a different race or have an immigrant as a neighbor. America is a relatively tolerant country around the world.
These days, I'm not so sure. But would you consider it a point of view?
In India, China,
but if somebody
Russia.
says to you, like they did in this Jubilee debate, some did to Mehdi Hassan, get out of my country. You consider that a point of view? I consider it a clan. I consider it a racist.
Yeah, you're
bigot.
judging somebody's on their individual.
That's not a point of view. You're just a racist.
And just because you disagree with their politics is not a legitimate reason. So it's one thing if Mehdi had serious problems, a horrible past, maybe some, a bunch of things that could not filter through the immigration system. That's a different story. But you just judge by
But that's what a lot of those people. You weren't. Again, I'm going to emphasize you weren't one of these people. But there were a lot of people in that room that were like that. They're dangerous. These are dangerous people. They don't want people like you in this country. They're racist. They want America to look white. Don't you think that's the base of Donald Trump? And we'll get to Donald Trump, but
minority. Majority of them, I don't believe that.
You really don't believe that?
There's a minority that believe that, and absolutely.
Then why is it that when I go to a Trump rally, or when I did, 99% of the people that I saw at that rally were white people? Why is it that the Republican Party?
Not here in Las Vegas.
Well, I've been to a few, and I can tell you the overwhelming majority of people that were at his rallies
statistics,
absolutely
the
white.
voting statistic did shift. For
94% of black women didn't vote for Donald Trump. 80% of black men didn't vote for Donald Trump.
Young black men did shift.
Well, that might be true, but there's what 12 or 13% of people in this country are black. Less than 1% of people are elected Republicans. Why is that? Why is there so few minorities within the Republican Party compared to the Democrat Party?
That's a very long story. I think it's just how they market themselves. There's a lot of other factors. But
could it be policy? Could policy be a factor?
Absolutely. I do think that is. But I want to get to the heart of this issue because I spoke with Mehdi about this. And I'm not saying the U.S. should be like this, but when you look at countries like the UK or Iran or Japan, their cultural traditions matter. And these countries are smaller, they're more historic. And I would be upset if Tehran became a minority Persian city because it would get to the point where the culture would be diminished. For an example, if they just said, we're gonna import a bunch of sub-Saharan Africans into, let's say, Tehran or Tokyo, it would change the culture and the realm of those cities.
But you're allowed to be whatever you want to be. Why do you care so much about people from other cultures coming to certain areas? I mean, in my opinion, in the United States,
cultural preservation.
Listen, I don't have a lot in common with evangelical people on the right, but I'm not going to tell them what to believe.
The U.S. is different.
I'm not going to tell. Okay, well, let's talk about the U.S.
The U.S. is different than the U.K.
Okay,
I think
enough.
the U.K., when they're losing their British population, that concerns me. And I think it's the European population are mainly successful for their development and just to recklessly bring people from less fortunate societies to more developed societies is not the way to do it, depending on how it's
I'll tell you what concerns me more. People who judge others based on race, people who judge others based on religion. We have a lot of people like that in this country, and I'm not so concerned about races or religions and where they decide to live. They should be able to live wherever they want to. What I'm concerned about is what's going on in this country right now. Now, I know you're not a huge MAGA supporter. You did vote for Donald Trump. And I want to talk to you about that. Are you okay with the fact that there are ICE agents across this country? I'm talking about the United States now, some of whom are not even identifying themselves, going into churches, going into synagogues, in front of Home Depot, arresting people outside of the courtroom. With your dissent and where you come from, I would imagine you can't be okay with that.
I'm concerned about that. I think he's kind of like hit the accelerator. Sometimes I do feel that way. I do believe that the way we do it is we audit every employer in this country and figure out where they're employing and why they're employing them and issue fines and levies.
Are you comfortable with undocumented immigrants being sent with no due process to El Salvador prisons?
It depends on the case. I have to hear both sides.
Well,
but if there's literally people with no criminal records
there are,
and been here for 30 years.
There are.
And there are people who tried to become U.S. citizens.
Correct.
And the system is tough. That's a different animal.
Do you regret voting for Donald Trump where we are right now, 6 months into his administration, where we have the war in the Ukraine that's still going on?
I can't say.
You can't say?
I can't say because it's like
you think he's done some good things?
I mean, look here, Pierce Morgan. The border crossings are down.
The border crossings are down, but look at how much we are in as a country. Look at the people in this country that are not getting due process. Some people that look like you. Look at
Those
the fact.
two are not the same thing.
But it's still immigration policy.
If you close the door, it's not the same as kicking people out.
But it's still immigration policy.
That's a
You
good
can
point.
say that border crossings are down, but there are still people in this country that are not getting due process. He's defined the Constitution. The war in the Ukraine, he said, would be over in 24 hours. That's worse off now than it was on day one. We're now involved, in my opinion, in an ill-advised war in Iran. He hasn't lowered inflation. In fact, inflation went up last month. Gas prices are not dropping down. People are struggling, and you know this because in Las Vegas, tourism is way down. People are getting killed.
Well, Fremont isn't doing so bad, and I think some of it has to do with the management of the casinos.
All right. Well, I mean, I can give you some statistics.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm saying that you can't 100% blame it on one person, though. Just like you can't 100% blame inflation on Joe Biden. In fact, I don't think he was even the main.
Well, we
cause.
had something called COVID, obviously.
Yeah,
but
I want to get to the whole race point. The issue I have with these people.
Okay.
Is that the demographic decline in the United States is not mainly happening due to immigration. It's happening to birth rates. So that if I told these people, I would have told that blonde woman next to me, I said, just have more kids, outnumber the people. That's a more appropriate response because the fertility rate can also be a huge factor. Now, I do believe that the United States, we have to see that there are some issues with diversity. Las Vegas is not racially diverse in every neighborhood. People do tend to
I think it's more diverse here than in a lot of other places across the country.
It is true, but there are some neighborhoods that are not so diverse on the outskirts.
But if you okay, I believe you're being genuine with me here.
Yes.
But if you care so much about diversity, why vote for a guy like Donald Trump who literally invites people like Nick Fuentes and Kanye West to Mar-a-Lago? Literally hangs.
That's a good question.
I don't understand, but let me just give you some stats here.
Good
because
question.
You mentioned.
Look,
hold on. Let me just give you some stats. This is important because you said Fremont's doing well. Las Vegas hotel occupancy dropped nearly 15% in June, another 17% in July. This is the steepest decline among the top 25 U.S. tourism markets, according to data research by the Stiff Travel Research, and it gets worse. 13.2% fewer international travelers visited Las Vegas in June compared to last year. Hotel revenue fell off a cliff, dropping nearly 29% to just $102.75.
I'm being affected.
This is not an accident.
Yeah.
This is Donald Trump's policy.
I have trouble paying my bills. Yeah.
And you don't regret voting for Donald Trump. You can't say.
Like I said, time will tell.
What if he's in the Epstein files? What if it's proven that
I'm not surprised? But I want to get to the Jubilee subject.
Okay, I do want to talk about the Jubilee stuff. I promise you we'll get back to that.
We want to make sure we don't run out of time.
We have plenty of time to do that. But this is you seem like a nice guy. I don't think you're a dumb guy. I don't think you're one of those white supremacists, clearly, that you were in that room with. Well, but hold on.
People have to tell me what's the goal of what America's going to look like in 50 years, why it's being done, and will it get to the point where too much of one thing, where the drawbacks will outweigh the benefits?
I understand what you're saying, Cyrus.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is the part that's it confuses me.
Yeah.
Okay. You're telling me that you most likely believe that Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. By the way, we agree on that.
I'm not surprised. I don't know. I haven't looked into it.
So if you're not surprised that the guy's a child predator and you voted for him, why not just say, you know what? I shouldn't have voted for this guy. That's the part. You seem like a nice guy. It's not wrong to admit that. I understand you probably don't.
If he is, I'll admit it. Okay, that's fine.
Do you think there's a chance that the Wall Street Journal
I'm not
is lying?
surprised. Not surprised. Look, when he first ran, I thought that I was kind of not excited about it. I thought that he's part of the same status quo.
So what was your problem with the Democrats? What was your problem
with
Kamala Harris?
I'm going to explain to you.
Okay.
I called on your show several months ago about Bill Maher.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in the architectural field. I work in terms of planning and everything.
Mm-hmm.
California is the most difficult state to build housing.
Mm-hmm.
And this will bite them hard because if there's a shortage of housing, prices go up, people move out. That is a fact. When you submit permits and plans, there's a lot of opposition. The process is long. There's a lot of environmental reviews. It's harder to build a skyscraper or a house here in California than it is here. We know that. That drives up prices. California home prices were pretty expensive before Trump ran for president. They've been overpriced for actually above the average for decades now. Okay. And that has the consequences of them losing House seats. People are moving out of the state. Bill Maher has talked about it. California has one of the highest gasoline prices in the country. They pay $1 more than we do here, $1.50 more than many other states.
But Gavin Newsom doesn't set the gas prices. You know that.
I do believe that, and he is right. There is gouging. We do find out when Russia
under the Biden administration, these companies were making record profits. We have a war in Ukraine. We had COVID. Of course, gas prices were going to go up.
But the spikes were different in this part of the country, especially California.
So I'm confused. You're saying that it's Democrats' fault that gas prices are up in
partially,
California?
yes. Their tax policy, their other
tax policy. So
they have the highest gas taxes.
Then why wouldn't you criticize Donald Trump's tax policy for giving
state tax?
Okay, but Donald Trump in the big beautiful bill has given the biggest tax breaks to the top 1%.
I'm not surprised, but I'm just saying.
But if you say you're not surprised, why are you criticizing Democrats?
There's gaps. I told you, California is way more expensive than New Mexico.
There's higher demand in California, though. If there's going to be a higher demand, of course prices are going to be higher.
I believe
if you go into
Gray Davis,
if you go into a small city where there's a low population, of course those gas prices are going to be lower than LA.
No, but in the late 90s, California and America was here. Okay. Now it's like here.
Okay, but
the gap has widened, and it's widened in Las Vegas because we get our supplies from those refineries.
So you're saying you didn't vote for Kamala Harris, and you voted for a guy that you believe is most likely a sexual predator who went into girls' locker rooms, was best friends with. But I think this is an important question with Epstein, and because you maybe don't want to. I don't understand that.
Look, let's just cut to the chase. Okay, I might regret I did this. I supported the wrong people. Okay. You want to own it? That's fine.
I'm not trying to own it. I'm just trying to understand.
The answer is, I think the problem here is that the Democrat approval rating is very low.
Who cares? Donald Trump's approval rating is the lowest it's been in 70 years. What does that have to do with your opinion?
I know, but the alternative isn't better, and that's the problem.
The alternative isn't better. So you think Donald Trump is the better alternative than Kamala Harris?
I have to see. But the point is, I want to make
Let me ask you a question. If Kamala Harris was president, would people not be getting due process in this country?
They would.
They would. Okay, so we agree on that.
But the border still would have been different. Okay. We know that.
Well, Kamala Harris is the one who had the bipartisan border bill put in place with Joe Biden and MAGA Republicans, and Donald Trump was the guy who said, no, we're not going to vote for this bill. So I think that's debatable. But what about taxes? Do you think Kamala Harris would have given the biggest tax breaks to the top 1% in American history?
I lived in the state of California. If I would have stayed, and when I sold my stocks, I would have paid tens of thousands of dollars in capital gains taxes. When I came to Nevada, I saved a lot of money. So, and I agree, there's upsides to progressive taxation, but sometimes they end up targeting the bottom 50%. And this is my concern. A lot of these Democrats are not even progressive. They're just essentially selling out to their corporate buddies. They can as well, just like the Republicans. And so they end up hiking taxes for bottom earners. Sales taxes is very high.
Don't you think Donald Trump has done that with the pharmaceutical companies specifically, raising prices in Europe? I mean,
I'm not here to discuss. I'm here to discuss about the Jubilee thing.
I understand that.
I want to discuss about those people, and I want to listen. I'd love to discuss about the president another time. I'd love to do that because I want to make sure we don't get to
But in that Jubilee debate, they were talking about a lot of issues that MAGA Republicans talk about. There were a lot and you weren't one of them, but there were a lot of bigoted views that were put forth, and many of those views are shared by the far right. And I think that's why Mehdi Hassan, I'm going to be honest with you, I was in shock. I couldn't believe
you did a pretty decent job.
Not from you, but I couldn't believe what some of these people that you were sitting next to were saying. And I think this is a big problem in this country. Listen, there are people on the far left that I don't agree with either. But in this debate, if you want to go back to the Jubilee, I'm happy to do that with you. There were literally Nazi sympathizers that were there. I
was shaking. I know. I was shaking.
I mean, did you talk to that guy? The guy who lost his job?
I spoke to him. I have his number.
What did he say to you when you guys weren't recording? Did you have a conversation with him?
Thank you for, speaking out for our people, and thank you for hearing me out. And
you thanked him?
No, he thanked me.
He thanked you?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you think you have anything aligned with that guy?
Oh, he wants authoritarian dictatorship. Oh no,
you don't.
No.
Did you say anything like that to him? Like
no.
You just were. Was it because maybe you
no?
were?
But what was I supposed to do? Ignore him and just say "f off"? I mean,
I wouldn't have ignored him. I would have said you're despicable. I think you don't represent Americans and you're a white supremacist. What about the other guy who walked away from Mehdi Hassan saying you should be deported? Did you talk to that guy?
I think I did. I don't remember.
I mean, your family is full of immigrants.
I did speak to the blonde woman, and she told me that I'm not going to date you because of your race.
Well, she's a racist pig. That's what I would have called her.
No, but the stats show, though, that white women are less likely to intermarry than any other race.
And that might be true.
You know,
by the way.
But that's why race matters. I mean, we see more white men with Asian women than the other way around. So, even Persian men go for Asian women than the other way around.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Okay?
And that is causing demographic change because if they have offsprings, they do.
So Cyrus,
yes.
Everybody has their physical attributes that they like.
I dated 2 Latino women this week.
Hey, good for you, man. But everybody has their preference. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about. When somebody goes up to somebody and says, I would never date you because of the color of your skin, they're a bigot. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I usually don't date white women. It's not because I don't like white people. It's a physical thing for me, I guess. I don't know. But it's not because I'm a racist towards white people. But I feel like, and you tell me if you disagree, when this white blonde woman, and I know who you're talking about because she was one of the idiots, not you, but she was one of the idiots that debated Mehdi Hassan. She goes up to you. She knows almost nothing about you. And she goes up to you and she says, I wouldn't date you because where you're from.
No, I asked him. I asked her personally, would you date me?
And the answer that she gave you, to me, is bigoted in nature. Instead of saying, maybe, maybe not, I don't know, and being nice.
But I have relatives that say some of them stick within your own ethnicity.
And that's okay, but there's a way to say it without acting like a bigot.
Well, I don't know. I don't remember how she said it, but I can't remember. I mean,
Do you think she's racist?
Look, it depends what racism is. If I were to say, hey, this color skin, you're not allowed in my property or business for whatever reason, that is racist. That is harsh. That's absolutely disgusting. But when I look at patterns, when I see people moving to Idaho and Montana, and I see a lot of that, I feel that it's because of white flight, that people are moving to Coeur d'Alene, Missoula, and all those other areas. I've been there. I took a road trip there. I think that kind of tells me that people tend to like to live in areas like themselves. So when you see the population growth, now, do I have any interest of living there? No, not really. You know, I actually enjoy like it here. My apartment building is diverse, but here's what I do oppose. I do oppose that the powers that be come out and say that, hey, it's not diverse enough. We got to bring massive numbers of refugees and mix it up. I don't believe that. Okay. I do believe in self-separation, but I don't believe in government.
You do believe that there are people that are discriminated in this country based on the color of their skin. You would agree with me there, right?
Well, I mean, you can say DEI is against people like me and East Asians.
I mean, when Donald Trump blames DEI for a plane crash, doesn't that offend you? When Charlie Kirk says, should I trust this pilot because he's black? Doesn't that offend you? It offends me and I'm not black.
No, but there's black people that can be qualified. There's many smart black people.
Of course there are.
Yeah.
Of course there are. But I feel like within the Republican Party, we hear this term DEI. And this is my personal opinion, Cyrus, and you're probably going to disagree with me. But I think when MAGA Republicans use the term DEI hire, it's another word for the N-word.
Yeah.
I think it's hate.
But I want to get to this subject because.
But you talk about DEI. You agree with Donald Trump that we have all these people that are unqualified, that are minorities getting hired in this country?
I have to look at the case. I have to look at every case.
Do you agree with Donald Trump when he blames DEI for plane crashes? He did that in the plane crash at Reagan International
Airport. But did he investigate it?
Of course he didn't.
Okay.
It was hours after the crash, and he blamed it on DEI.
If he said possibility, then that's a different story. But
why would you even say that, though? Without having any facts to back it up, why would you even say it's a possibility that the reason why this plane crash happened is because they hired a bunch of black people?
I want to get to the heart of this issue because
I think we are in the heart of the issue. I think a lot of people on the far right are racist. I really do.
Look, but you could say that abortion disproportionately affects non-whites if they get it, because that impacts their numbers. You can say that the very blue counties of Marin County, California, and Martha's Vineyards, they have housing regulations that restrict growth. That can
you're anti-abortion. Is that a fair characterization?
I think it should be taboo, but no, I'm not against it.
So you don't agree with what Donald Trump did was leaving it up to the states, and in half the states in this country, abortion is illegal. You don't.
That issue doesn't really concern me, but
it doesn't concern you at all.
No,
telling a woman what to do with her body doesn't concern you.
I mean, if it's in the case of rape, incest, or thing, that's a different story.
Okay, well, I'm glad we agree on that.
Yeah,
I agree with you because, as you know, in some states there are no exceptions.
Then the kid grows up and then he needs to get help, and I get the story. But
I just don't like telling anybody what to do.
I will say this though, that being against the traditions of America, if you want to be white, and if the woman wants to get married young, you're straight, you have a nuclear family, I'm saying that there should not be a war against that.
What do you mean? There's a war against that? What do you mean?
I'm saying if there is, I don't know, because
who is what? Name me a Democrat in office that is against the nuclear family. I don't understand that argument. Help me understand.
I haven't even heard of it, but it has changed.
Can you help me with this?
It has
this
changed.
Nuclear family argument, Cyrus, because you're an important person to ask because you brought it up. I hear
I'm
a lot
just
of
saying if somebody wants it, they should be able to get it. I'm not saying it's the perfect way.
I understand.
But I'm just saying it's like,
of course, we live in a free society.
If you want to live the old-fashioned way, it should not be an issue. But here's the point with immigration. When I have elected officials, and I could be wrong, when Jackie Rosen feels that non-citizens are a higher priority than U.S. citizens, when Selena Torres, the assemblywoman, believes that non-citizens are a higher priority, that's what bothers me. That concerns me.
What do you mean by higher priority?
They care more about them. They're willing to meet with them.
So you have politicians that have openly said that they care more about immigrants or undocumented immigrants than American citizens. I don't recall seeing that statement.
I do feel that way.
Well, I think
they've changed in the last 15 years.
Well, I think everybody should be.
They used to be for finding employers, securing the border. You look at old tapes from the late 2000s. They've had their immigration stances change.
You agree with me that most immigrants, undocumented or not, in this country are not violent criminals. You would agree?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I don't believe the crime problem is because of that.
So why?
But there are bad apples.
So of course, there's bad apples everywhere. I agree with you.
You have angel moms. Their concerns are legitimate.
But Donald Trump is the guy that said these Mexicans are rapists and they're bad people, and I suppose some of them are good people. They make it sound like immigrants and people that look like you want to rape your kids. You can't be.
Oh, they've told me that. They told me, you are going to do something to white women and all that stuff.
So how could you support people like that? That's despicable.
No, I believe that they should have the freedom of speech to say what they want. And if they tell me like that, I tell them
they have the right for freedom of speech. I don't disagree with you, but there's a difference. See, this is where I think we disagree. I agree with you that they have freedom of speech, but it doesn't mean you have to support these people. It doesn't mean you have to vote for these people. Tom Homan, Donald Trump, and his administration are gloating. They're calling it Alligator Alcatraz. They're putting up stuff on their official White House X account of an immigrant, dangling and alligators eating them. Your family is from, you can't be okay with that. It's one thing to make the argument about freedom of speech.
But it's still fairness, though. I mean, there has to be a different truth between legal or not.
But Alligator Alcatraz, people that are non-violent criminals being sent to El Salvador.
Well, that's
what they're doing, though, Cyrus. Here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. There might be some people that agree with you. There might be some people that disagree with you, but we have a lot of people that want to talk to you. So if you don't mind,
absolutely,
I do want to open up the phone lines, and I appreciate you being here. By the way, his name is Cyrus Ojadi. The number to call, now's the time to do it. You have a chance to talk to Cyrus. The number to call is 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you'd like to be a part of the conversation is 702-221-7283. A lot of you are asking me, well, who's Cyrus? Well, I've met Cyrus before. He's politically active. I think he's an avid listener of this show and other shows. And Cyrus appeared on the Jubilee debate with Mehdi Hassan, which, by the way, went viral. That went viral. And Cyrus is nice enough to be here and talk about it. By the way, Cyrus was very toned down compared to a lot of extremists that were debating Mehdi Hassan. And I thought it was absolutely crazy what some of these people were saying. So why don't we get right to the phone lines? And again, that number to call is 702-221-7283. Again, that number 702-221-SAVE. And I agree with Cyrus on a bunch of different issues. We do have something in this country called freedom of speech. I do think Donald Trump is attacking that. He wants to sue all these people, and he wants to, put people in jail that disagree with him. But yes, we do have something called freedom of speech. Yeah. But that also doesn't mean that there aren't consequences for your words. I think, Cyrus, you would agree with me on that. So this guy who called himself a fascist, an open fascist and a Nazi sympathizer, was fired from his job. I think he deserves it. I don't know how you feel about that. You spoke to this guy.
It depends on what position he had.
Well,
if he's in the back room, nobody sees him, then that's different than in customer service. Because if he was like a cashier at a grocery store, that would be a different animal because he'd lose business.
Well, I wouldn't want him working for me. A
Yeah.
guy that's an open fascist who laughs about it and defends Nazis. I mean, I don't care what job he has, unless you're a Nazi yourself. I don't know.
The coworkers would be.
I don't know why.
Too.
I don't know why you would want to hire somebody like that. All right, let's go to the phone lines right now. And again, that number is 702-221-7283. Cyrus is nice enough to join us here. I think we have CJ. Is that right? CJ is on line 1. Hi, CJ. Thanks for calling in to
Hey,
PTL.
hey.
Hey, you're on. You're on with Cyrus. Go right ahead.
Hey, Cyrus. Hey, Brian.
Yes, sir.
Talking a little bit about DEI.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, I think it was, last spring, the cartoonist known as Reuben Bowling. Ever heard of him? He does the Tom the Dancing Bug cartoon.
I'm not familiar, but go ahead, sir.
Oh, he does it. It's a brilliant political comic strip that he publishes like about weekly or so. And there was a strip on the subject of DEI. I'm going to try to get to it here. I had it up, but I was trying to find the actual link to his page. But and it said that DEI is weakening America and has to go. Because it and I happen to agree if we go by the definition in this comic strip.
So would you consider Pete Hegseth to be a DEI hire?
He's a DUI hire.
Fair enough. What about some of the others in Trump's administration? Like,
oh, definitely. Well, see, let me get to the point here because the point is DEI as the Tom the Dancing Bug cartoon defines it is demographically entitled idiots.
Well, let's let Cyrus respond to that because he might disagree. Go ahead, Cyrus.
I don't believe in DEI because it doesn't benefit me. We have people of my ethnicity and East Asians that outperform the national average, and I don't believe that somehow that we have to kind of give preferences to kind of because this is where the whole premises is about, is to have overall we want the outcomes to be equal, not just among races but among genders. So by that logic, when let's say the major city, San Jose, has the largest gender pay gap in the United States, by that logic, they believe that San Jose is the most sexist city in America. But we all know why. But again, we don't look at, okay, what kinds of jobs they have in that city. So this is all about equal outcome. And I don't want to sound like an extremist. I don't know if you're ready for this, but differences among racial groups from I've recognized have always existed for over 500,000 years or so. When you look at civilizations in sub-Saharan Africa, when you look at the Persian civilizations, the Chinese civilizations, European civilizations, we've always had differences. Why do you think Congo and Angola have the lowest math scores, and let's say Japan and South Korea, Taiwan have the highest test scores, and Iran is in between? Because you could see that similar patterns of achievement exist all over the world.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons for that. It could be wealth. It could be education. I mean, I would also
it does matter.
Why is it Donald Trump couldn't pass a third grade civics test? I mean, we can say that there are a lot of people in
individuals are different, but
six out of 10 Republicans in this country believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. So I mean, we can go back and forth on what people believe and all that, but go ahead, sir. I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Anyway, well, first to address what he just said, there's actually been some deep studies on that. A lot of it is because simply latitude, and I mean from distance from the equator. Mm-hmm. Basically, we can't have civilization without metal.
Yeah,
modern civilization.
Yeah, I hear you.
You can't have technology.
Yeah, no, I understand.
You don't discover metal by. It's not just laying on the ground. It's in ores that look like ordinary rocks. The only way you get to doing metal, is if you take these rocks and subject them to fire.
I totally hear you, my friend.
Unless you live in cold environments.
Understood. I appreciate the call, my friend. We want to move on to the next caller, but I do appreciate you calling in. Thank you, CJ. All right, let's go to line 2. Let's go to Frank. Frank is next up on PTL. Hey, Frank, you're on with Cyrus. Go right ahead.
Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good.
Cyrus, thank you. You know what this all stems from? It's your upbringing. When you are told that you have to respect other people, no matter what they are, black, white, whatever. If it doesn't start there, it will never happen in life.
I don't respect Klan members. I don't respect.
No, I don't either.
I don't respect Proud Boy members. I don't respect some of the racists that were sitting next to Cyrus in this Jubilee debate, Frank. I don't respect bad people. Okay, and that has nothing.
No, I don't either.
And yeah, I know you don't. And that has nothing to do with the color of your skin, where you're from, or even your religion. If you're a bad person, you're a bad person.
Yes.
Whether you're Bill Clinton or Donald Trump in the Epstein files. If you're a child predator, you're a child predator. And we shouldn't have people like that running the country, period.
And
I agree.
The problem is when you start getting to the point where you have that kind of opinion, you'll never go back to what people should. And that is the truth. And these people can never understand it on the far right.
I agree, Frank, and I appreciate your call. It's good to hear from you, Frank. Thank you. Thank you very much. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to line 3 now. Let's go to Mark. I think Mark has a bone to pick with Cyrus. So go ahead, Mark. You're on.
Thank you, Brian, for the opportunity. Cyrus, I'm not here to attack. I'm just here to get the facts. And you seem to agree with a lot of things that Brian said, that you're against all immigrants being deported. You're against alligator Alcatraz, but you kind of like blow that aside. And then you kind of, I don't know if you know, but you blow away the fact that he had dinner with a Nazi. You blew away the fact that the KKK endorses him. You blow away the fact that the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys endorse him. So I want to ask you a question, Cyrus. I want to ask you one question, very simple, and I don't want to hear a slogan. And I'll hang up and listen to your answer. What policies do you like about Donald Trump? And I don't want to hear slogans. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mark.
I think that some people voted for him not because they liked his policies, but because they wanted a better candidate for 28. Because they knew that, well, that 20 candidate we had last year wasn't as good, so it's better to just make sure she doesn't win, and then we get a better candidate, and we may be better off long run. I think that was part of the logic. See, not every Trump supporter is the same. There's different shades of red. I think there are some people who are light pink. So I think that...
Do you have policy? I think he had asked you, what are the policies you like?
Well, like I said, just like I said, Pierce Morgan brought up the border apprehensions much down. I think that is, that is the record, that is the data. I can't say that data is a lie. So I have to give him credit where it's due.
Even though people are not getting due process in this country.
Like I said, I have to look at every case. I have to see what's going on. I cannot comment on something just because somebody tells me something.
Well,
I have to look at what's going on.
The Trump administration has admitted that they sent people to El Salvador prisons because they had tattoos. And they believed without those people getting any due process.
But I think that heart of my issue is I want to audit and fine every employer who's hiring these people, at least in sectors that Americans want jobs, because not every sector is the same. And I think that we should know who they are.
Donald Trump has done that. We know who he is. He's hired illegal immigrants.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I think that happened in the 80s. I'm not surprised.
But he still did it. He still did it.
Everybody should get fined regardless.
Okay.
I'm pissed off at Wall Street, hedge funds. That's where my anger is.
You think illegal immigrants that are working in this country is a bigger issue than all the gun violence we have in this country, or 15 million people that are going to be losing their Medicaid? I mean, you think that's a
very excellent question. It's a very excellent question. My biggest issue is that our country has been hijacked by a corporate cartel.
Okay.
The financial system, this globalist policy has not worked for the American people. And I believe immigration has been hijacked, like every other issue, to basically serve their benefits. And by the way, I think a lot of these lobbies, they can't.
I'm going to be honest with you. The people that you were sitting next to in this Jubilee thing, I find much more dangerous to the United States of America than the overwhelming majority of undocumented immigrants that are in this country that want a better life for themselves and their family. Why you're not more concerned about some of those people?
Well, you just have to research them, see if they have criminal records or violent tendencies.
I mean, they're defending Nazism. Okay. The overwhelming majority of per capita, you have a better chance, a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than you do an undocumented immigrant. Don't those people...
I'm not surprised, but they do have a higher crime rate than legal arrivals. Legal arrivals versus non-legal. So there's still a difference.
Per capita, if you're undocumented in this country, you have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen than an undocumented immigrant, which means
I've seen the data.
Yeah,
I've seen the data.
So the idea that these
but
people
the
are
legal arrivals, that's what I was getting to. But there's two reasons that bothers
no,
me.
that's not the legal arrivals. If you're undocumented in this country, you still have a better chance of being the victim of a crime from an American citizen. Those are the stats put forth by the FBI.
I'm a foreign born that came in legally.
Okay.
That's what I was talking about.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
understood.
So there's two reasons why it concerns me: the hedge funds, the private equity. I believe that it's being done for their interest. And this leads me to my other point. I run an urban planning organization because my top issue in America is not immigration. It's two things that I dislike about America. America has lost its family structure, its gender roles and everything else.
Can I ask you about that?
Decline of marriages, birth
rates. Can I
rates.
ask you about that?
Yeah.
I believe you're being genuine with me when you care about family structure. You know where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah.
You care about family structure, which, by the way, I do as well. I'm with you.
It's natural. We need to keep reproducing.
But if you care about family structure, then why would you vote for the guy that's cheated on every single woman he's ever had? He had unprotected sex with a porn star. How do I know? He paid Stormy Daniels $130,000. He bragged about sexual assault. He bragged about...
He has issues, but I want to get to my other point.
But hold on. You care. Hear me out, Cyrus. I'm not trying to attack you on this. You're bringing up family structure, and I hear this from Republicans all the time. The nuclear family.
That's not really so much of a political issue. That's a cultural issue. The mass media is responsible.
But the leader of your leader of your party is a serial cheater and abuser.
That's too bad, and I should condemn that. But let me get to my other point, because I run a local chapter of an urban planning organization. We have chapters around the world. Where America really disgusts me is its urban planning system.
Okay.
We can't get around without cars in most places. Most homes are really close together here in Las Vegas and much of the country. We have a situation where car travel has its downsides. We can't walk down the street to do our errands like we used to in the old cities. You go to other countries, especially in the older areas.
You care about our roads. You care about construction. You care about bridges. Is that a fair characterization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And our urban planning is a disaster. And I think until we fix the situation, we should not bring people into our country.
What did Donald Trump say back in the 2016 election when he was president for 4 years about a bipartisan infrastructure bill? What did he say?
I don't remember.
He said he was going to do it. What happened?
Don't remember.
He didn't do it. You know who did? Joe Biden. He put together a bipartisan infrastructure bill something that Donald Trump promised he would do for the American people. And if we want to talk about promises and you care about it.
I will give him credit for the Bright Line train.
Well, I mean, he put together the bipartisan infrastructure bill, and Trump was the guy that said he was going to build a wall and Mexico was going to pay for it. Let's get back to the calls, though. We have a lot of people that want to talk to you, Cyrus.
But that's what bothers me, is that when we can manage our country, we shouldn't bring people in.
All right. What bothers me more is we have an adjudicated rapist who's in the Epstein files who's running the country. That's just my opinion.
I'm not surprised.
It bothers me a lot less that we have a lot of undocumented immigrants here, because I think most of these people are great people. I want more people that look like you in this country, because I think most of you are wonderful people.
But what do you do with the people that are bothered by it? What do you do? Send them to the moon?
If people that are bothered by it, they can go F themselves, because people that are bothered by it are usually
You can't change their preference, my friend.
No, but we can call them out for it.
But it's worldwide.
The people that want the overwhelming majority of people in this country are not racist.
No, worldwide, there's people that like to live in more homogeneous cultures.
Then let them do that. But stop attacking good people in this country that want a better life for themselves. Do I wish that they came in here legally? Guess which?
A lot of countries do have stricter immigration policies.
You think it should take 10 or 15 years for somebody to be a naturalized citizen in this country? In some cases, it takes up to 15 years. There's one party.
It took 5 for my mom.
Okay.
It took less time for my father.
By the way, I think 5 years is too long, too. There is one party.
Well, that was in the early 90s. That was in the 70s. Things were different back then.
I understood. But there's one party that wants to make it easier for people that look like you to come in here legally. That party is the Democrat Party. The Republican Party continues to vote against bills. They don't want to make it easier for people to come into this country and be naturalized. So if the argument is you want people to come in here, but make sure you're legal, then why not make it easier for people to come into this country?
I don't believe they have in their best interest. I think they're being pushed by their corporate donors to get more people in.
Whose fault is that? Then they're phonies. Then they're
Democrats.
phonies.
The Democrats.
Democrats are phonies?
No, Democrats are getting a lot of corporate donors as the same as the Republicans.
Could it maybe be that there are a lot of Democrats in this country that don't care about what you look like? They want to make it easier for good people to be naturalized citizens.
There might be a few, sure.
And maybe a few? I think the majority of Democrats want to make it easier for people that look like you to be in this country.
Right.
And I think a lot of Republicans want this country to look white.
But their
That's what I think.
agenda, well, a few do. I don't think it's the
A
vast
few?
majority of them. I don't think it's the vast majority.
I think "Make America Great Again" means "Make America White Again." But Cyrus, let's get back to the calls. Let's go to line 6. Let's go.
Well, at Tucker Carlson and a few others.
One of the biggest names on the right.
Right. I mean, he has talked about demographics and Coulter. I mean, it's true. It's true. But you can't say all of them believe that.
I don't think all of them believe
Yeah.
that. I never said that. Let's go to Paul. Paul's on line 6. Hey, Paul, what's going on? Thanks for calling in.
Hey, Cyrus. I'm hoping to make this a learning lesson for you, Cyrus. I want you to put the politics and policy aside for just 1 second. When he was elected, he is an adjudicated rapist. He molested a 13-year-old Katie Johnson, grabbed woman by the PUSSY. He assaulted his ex-wife. When he got elected, I had an aunt that was crying on the phone that can't understand why people like yourself didn't see rape as a red line not to vote for him. And as a content creator, I speak about this. Hold on. Please don't gaslight, because this is a serious issue. There's a lot of women that are tired and afraid to speak up because people like you don't see rape as a red line. Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, there's lots of people that make fake claims. That didn't happen. I wasn't there. I didn't see the evidence. Let me see both sides of it. No. In a court of law, he is an adjudicated rapist. What do you tell people that rape isn't a red line?
Oh, rape is absolutely a horrible crime, and I think it should be
But
condemned.
you voted for a rapist, sir.
I never admitted I
It
did.
wasn't a red line for
Brian, Mr. Shapiro talked that I did, but I never admit that I did. So, okay.
Well,
and if he did,
Trump.
okay, I'll condemn his actions. That's fine. Okay. But I think that this goes back to the gender relations, that a lot of men are also concerned about false rape accusations. And you are right. Some rapes do not go reported. So I think that there has to be
Hold on. Wait a minute. Stop. He was found liable in a court of law by a jury of his peers to have raped G. Carroll. That is not an opinion. It's not some.
Okay. Well, he should be punished. Then go ahead.
But you still ignored it and voted for him. Why?
I never said I did on live, did I?
Well,
you voted for Donald Trump.
All right, hold on.
Did you vote for?
Let me preface this.
I'll keep this.
I did not know that Cyrus did not want me to say that on the air. And if he had told me that.
But I did give Trump credit for the things he's done. I have to give credit where it's due, just like every administration. Joe Biden, Obama, every administration has crazy. And I think this leads me to my point. Look, my great-grandmother visited this country in the early 1960s. She loved the America back then. And I know family knows best. I feel that since Kennedy got assassinated, this country has been going downhill ever since. And I think that Trump, believe it or not, got in because people wanted change and they didn't have a better option, just like Bernie Sanders in 2016. I think that is why, Trump got in. And and until there's a better alternative, until people see that there's another route to take, then I think things can, go a different path.
All right, let's take another phone call.
Do
we have Leonard on line 5 or Julie on line 5? I don't know which one it is. All right, let's find out who's on line 5 here. I have Julie and Leonard. So is this Julie or Leonard on line 5?
It's me.
Julie,
Brian,
okay.
it's
What's
Julie.
up? What's up, Julie? Go ahead. You're on with Cyrus. Go ahead. Cyrus is getting beat up a little bit here, so let's try to be
No, bring it on. Bring it on. I like
All
this.
right, go ahead, Julie.
I am trying to wrap my head around, Cyrus, that you keep backing up somebody who's a known racist, and you are colored. So I would think you would back up people. But no, you're hyping up a racist. You're covering up for him. Meanwhile, that change you talked about was taking away my health care.
I'm sorry to
Taking
hear.
away food stamps. Taking
Sorry to
away things that could help me live. I have to take medication in order to keep my heart from going off the rails.
Well, let's talk about that.
I'm so fine about this.
Because I think Cyrus wants to stick to some policy stuff. Obviously, people vote differently, but this big beautiful bill, and she makes a good point. I mean, there's going to be like 15 million people that are going to lose their medical coverage.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I have to look at the cases and why they're losing their coverage. I think that, again, this is going to, obviously, we do need healthcare reform. So just buying overpriced health insurance somehow is automatically not the answer. But you talk about the race issue. Look, we have to come together as a country to figure out what is tolerant and what is not. I think, for an example, that I think there's benefits to multiracial societies here in Las Vegas, but I also think white people do matter. That doesn't make me a racist for saying that.
Of course,
when I look at the
everybody matters.
When I look at the Las Vegas,
because you're trying to gaslight.
look,
I'm
when you look
laughing
at the
because you're
Las
trying to
Vegas Strip,
gaslight.
Caesar's Palace, Bellagio, Venetian, Excalibur, Paris, these are all European themes. That's the cultural influence that we cherish. We had the Aladdin, we had the Imperial Palace. One was Moorish themed. After 9/11, we got rid of it. Our society still has a European cherish. We still feel that in a way we are an extension of Europe. And I think when I look at these themes, that tells me that those people matter. Why isn't our architectural styles? Why are they still European influence? We don't have Persian and Arab style homes. It would go well in this climate.
But some of the people that think that this stuff matters, like yourself, the people in that Jubilee debate want you out of the country.
Well, they don't want the homes either.
I mean, it's sick. Thank you for the call, my dear. I appreciate you. 702-221.
But where do you draw the line, though? That's really my question. I mean, should we retheme the Caesar's Palace because it promotes whiteness and, hey, let's have Persian Cyrus Palace Hotel.
Well, here's what I think. I think that if you have the money and you want to build a property, you should be allowed to build whatever the hell you want, but you shouldn't discriminate against people and tell people that they can't go into your property or they can't be a member of your property because of your skin color. That's what I think, and I think if somebody wants to build a Nazi building, they shouldn't be allowed to do that because that promotes hate speech. And I know we have something called freedom of speech, but there's somebody that owns that property and there's somebody that can sell that property and it's their responsibility.
Well, I mean, they get so much protest and opposition, they wouldn't be allowed to do in business. It just wouldn't work.
702-221-7283. Let's go to Darlene on line 3. Darlene, hey, Darlene, you're on with Cyrus. Go right ahead.
Cyrus. First, let me tell you who I am. I'm the MAGA destroyer, and I got something to say to you, and I hope I don't hurt your little feelings. But let me ask you a question, and it's either going to be yes or no. Do you know when the freedom of speech went out the window?
That's a very excellent
Yes or
question. Probably.
Yes or no?
No, I don't.
It was when all of you voted in that damn orange orangutan for a president.
Well,
and I'm going to tell you something else. No, hold up, bud. You need to get some balls. You are scared. You should not be in the position that you're in because you are too scared to say anything to anybody.
All right, well, let's let him. Darlene, hang on the line.
Well, it's about
let Cyrus respond.
About taboo subjects and trying to reveal the truth. There's nothing wrong with that. If I am
Republicans don't know the truth.
Okay. Well, if I'm somebody who is skeptical about demographic change, I should not be criticized for that. Now, the thing is when I talked about this stuff in this Nevada state legislature about civilizations 500 years ago, State Senator Melanie Scheibel cut me off. And I think that was a wrong thing to do. Now, I've had good relations with her, but I think that was a free speech violation. Now, of course, it's one thing if it's off topic. However, I just think that, I should be able to speak my mind. And I don't believe in censorship in private businesses. If they want to do what they want, that's fine. But but if I run the social media platforms, I would not censor anybody. Depending on if it's attacks, if it's violence and things like that, yes. But if it's somebody that, let's just say, that's promoting the interest of European Americans, I would not censor them.
I think you could promote the interest of anybody, but I also think on social media you shouldn't be allowed to be racist and be bigoted in nature. And I think what's happening on X right now is despicable. I think what Elon Musk allows on that platform and other platforms, completely unacceptable. And, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doesn't even understand.
Dirty, yeah.
But Robert F. Kennedy Jr. did the show, and he really doesn't even understand what freedom of speech is. These are private entities.
You should know.
Well, these are private entities. It's a privilege to be on these social media platforms. If Mark Zuckerberg or whoever doesn't want you on their platform, then you're not on their platform. That's the part I don't understand about this argument of freedom of speech. It's when it doesn't pertain to the government.
I think that when it comes to that or the New York City mayor election, I think we can all agree that times are tough. America did not recover properly from the financial crisis. And I think that the Occupy Wall Street movement, the Tea Party, should have told us something.
Yep.
I think that we didn't solve our problems, and there's all these different things. And just like, the gender issues. There's people that feel like there's a double standard against men. They believe family court laws are stacked against men. They should be able to bring in their concerns and their issues.
Are there really people in society that think men are treated worse than women?
Well, they argue the family court system is stacked against men. And I do think that. And I guess when I tell some women, like, I prefer a woman younger than me, they get a little pissed off, and it's like, well, look, I mean, there's the fertility factor.
Apparently that'd be Donald Trump, because he likes women that are teenagers that are much younger.
But he did go for foreign women, and I did go to the Philippines overseas, and I've dated, and I've told you my dating experience was much different. And this is kind of the issues I have living in this country. When men go overseas, the passport bros, I think it does show that there's something wrong happening in this country. Now, I'm not saying that everything that Myron Gaines or Andrew Tate is saying is correct, but I think that they do bring. I do like the fact that they bring up that there are some concerns, and we should look into it. And I think
you think anybody that should take any bit of credibility to what a guy like a sexual abuser like Andrew Tate has to say?
Well, I'm just saying that because there are problems with males and female relations, this is why these people have support. Because I think it's more. I guess you can say that people are concerned and they have to flock to people. So it's really more of the symptom is what we're doing.
I think there's a lot of misogyny in this country. I think women are treated far worse than men, and they're treated in so many instances like sexual objects.
I've heard the opposite.
You don't think women are treated like sex objects in this country?
Well, the woman has responsibility if she's on a street corner and she is half dressed in some district that we have out here, or going to a back alley massage parlor, or going on OnlyFans, or doing something in Pahrump. She does have responsibility. We have to make sure that, yes, there are predator men out there.
So if a woman is dressed sexy, she should be treated poorly? Like, I don't
No.
I don't understand what you're saying.
But I'm just saying,
in Pahrump, prostitution is legal. They have the right to do that.
Yes, but the woman makes the decision to engage.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about.
But if she goes on OnlyFans, it's still the same thing.
Right, but
she has responsibility.
Right, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about men in this country that disrespect women, like Donald Trump, or commit sexual abuse or rape. I feel like as a whole, women in this country are treated worse than men. Certainly when it comes to being treated as sexual objects. And I think when Donald Trump talked about grabbing women by the genitals, for example,
that's a different story. But
I think it's the same story. It's a misogynist pig, and we should all call that out. It's horrible when a man talks like that. If a woman talks like that, that's horrible too. But I didn't hear Kamala Harris talking about grabbing men by the genitals.
But we all have in the backroom talks about how we go bananas over women and stuff like that.
Going bananas over women is one thing. Bragging about grabbing women by the genitals and being an adjudicated rapist is something completely differently. And being a best friend to one of the biggest child predators.
So you do draw the line. That's good.
I mean, of course I do. If you're having a conversation about a woman's body parts in private, that's okay, fine, whatever. Locker room talk. Talking about grabbing women by their genitals? I played 2 sports in college, my friend. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. I've never heard a man talk like that. Anyway, Darlene, I appreciate the call. Thank you.
But anyway, I just want to say that when those people in Jubilee say one thing, it's equivalent to my grandfather, who he was a politician during the Shah of Iran. And he told me very nasty things about homosexuals, that they're sick people. And he was telling me about Elton John.
Well, then he's an idiot. I'm sorry. Okay, but this is your grandfather?
Yeah. He was a politician during the Shah of Iran.
So I'm sorry. With respect to you, your grandfather's an idiot. If you're going to talk about homosexuals that way, just because they have a different sexual preference.
But intolerance is worldwide, though.
Well, then he's a bigot.
But it's worldwide. Can you admit it's worldwide?
Anybody, I don't care where you are in the world. If you think homosexuality makes you a horrible person, then you're a freaking idiot.
Well, at least America has it better than
I'm not sure
the Middle East.
I'm not sure. Isn't that sad that your grandfather believes that way? I would tell your grandfather, what is your problem? What do you care what somebody else's sexual?
And my mom tells me don't date certain women of races. They look, and my father has said nasty things about blacks, Latinos. He says,
well, that's racist.
Well, and then he says, well, the traffic problem in LA, because he lived there since 1980, is because they have so much kids and they're coming to this country. And of course, LA's problem is because of its transportation.
It doesn't bring me any joy, Cyrus, to say this.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like there are people in your family that are bigots. And I don't think...
But they're not MAGA people, though.
Okay, well, MAGA people are not. It sounds to me that there are members of
most
your family.
of them do not like Donald Trump.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
But they seem to be okay with bigotry. And I don't
So
like
it can
to
come
hear
from
that.
all over.
It can come from all over. I agree with you. But that doesn't make it right. Whether it's your father or your grandfather, or God forbid, luckily I don't have anybody in my family that talks like that. But if I did, I would call them out on it, because I think it's despicable.
The thing is that they believe that the 1965 Hart-Celler Act, you know that law, that
Yes,
changed America.
but we're not living in 1965
But
now.
they believe that was the worst law that ever was enacted in this country.
Don't you think owning slaves was probably one of the worst things that ever
Well,
happened?
I'll be honest with you. Persians had sub-Saharan African slaves brought by
Which
the
is just
Arab
as bad.
slave trade. They had it before the Europeans did, and they ended it after the Europeans
Okay,
did.
well,
and there's still blacks that are living in Iran, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. So, but see, this the thing is, we're going to celebrate Juneteenth. We have to be fair. I'm just saying that. That's what I told.
Do you think it's fair to have members of your family judge people because of their sexuality or their skin color? Would you consider that fair?
Well, they're not harming me. They're not causing me trouble. If people who are gay,
Do you think members of your family are wrong for judging people, self-admitted, you just admitted it, based on their sexuality or the color of their skin? Do you think
Listen.
that's wrong, Cyrus? Why can't you say that's wrong?
Oh, color of their skin. Yes, of course. Sexuality.
Your
yeah.
father did that. Your grandfather did that. That's wrong,
But
Cyrus.
most people don't tell you their private conversations. That's the thing. I tell you
Whether-
what it is.
Okay, but whether it's public or private, it still doesn't make it right. It means they're bigots. I mean, it pains me to say this, Cyrus. I want people to be able to treat people as equals. I know that in some cases we're going to be biased in some situations, but your grandfather is judging an entire group of people because of their sexuality. Your father is blaming the traffic in LA because of black people?
No, Latinos, they have high birth rates.
It's just ridiculous.
He said that's why it was more crowded than the Bay Area. I mean, but see, look, the influences are not coming from your typical media outlets. It comes from family. It's just, look, I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you.
Are you like that, Cyrus? Do you blame traffic on groups of people?
No, my organization says that America's transportation problem is flawed. Don't you get it? Cars don't handle as many people as they do with mass transit systems.
But I agree with you, Cyrus. Our transportation policies and what we do in this country
You can
are
move
flawed.
millions of people in
I
this
understand.
country. So I'm just saying, let's fix these problems, and then let's open the doors a little better
Cyrus,
once our problems get.
You're not responsible for some of these horrible things that your family members have said. I agree with you that we have transportation issues and we could make things easier. But I would never blame it on a specific race, and I certainly would attack a sexuality.
I will give European Americans the credit for, not entirely, but partially responsible for building this great country.
Immigrants built this country.
Okay, but Europeans have credibility too. If they did not come here,
every race has credibility.
Okay, they did not come here, this country would have not been the way it was that allowed my family to come here.
Agreed.
Just like the Europeans built successful civilizations in Europe, and we're seeing non-Europeans come in.
But this country was founded by immigrants, and now Donald Trump wants to give many of these people who are undocumented no due process. Let's go to Damon on
we have to look at every case.
Let's go to, well,
because I know Persians that have tried and they couldn't get legal status.
They're not looking at every case.
Yeah.
They're not giving people due process. Line 4 is Damon. Hey, Damon, you're on with Cyrus. Go right ahead.
Hey, what's going on?
Hey.
What's your guest name, Brian?
This is Cyrus.
Oh, yeah, Cyrus. Okay. Hey, Cyrus, I heard you say that you want to get rid of all the immigrants.
No,
and don't let
no.
You're
You're just the incentives for them to, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, but do you understand labor history of this country?
Yes, I do know. There was the Bracero program. We've had, obviously, the U.S. had slavery before 1965, just like my parents' country. My mom told me Persians had...
Hold up. Wait, hold up, dude. You talking more nonsense. Hold up. I'm talking about from the beginning, from indentured servants, then to slavery, then from slavery to the Chinese and the Irish to build the railroad. From there, the Eastern Europeans.
Yes, absolutely. Every part of the world has done it.
This country has never existed without cheap labor. And if you close the doors off, American dream is to have your kids do better than you. If we achieve the American dream, our kids ain't picking strawberries. So
that's a very excellent point. That's a very excellent point. But I believe that the hedge funds, the Wall Street corporate interests are pushing this immigration, and they're not doing it for the legitimate interests of the people.
About what we're talking about. We're trying to talk about your plan to not let immigrants in. That's what we're talking about, not hedge funds. We get back to that.
I'm
So
saying that if our country is run
on a show like this, you're dealing with an intelligent clientele that Brian deal with. So at least bounce it off ChatGPT before you come on here. And Brian, about that DEI guy called with the initials, can the next time somebody that got a problem with DEI and minorities or whoever in the workplace, can you ask them their life experience and how they feel about the minorities or whoever work with them? And I want to hear them say, yeah, that Chinese person wasn't good at their job or that Mexican was lazy.
I hear you, Damon, and I appreciate your call, Damon, and I hear you. Go ahead, Cyrus. You wanted to respond.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, yes, America does need cheap labor. They do need, there's some jobs that some Americans won't do, and I think there are some here, although Las Vegas has one of the highest rates of unauthorized immigrants, and we have to look and see what's happened. I think it's fishy that we don't have crops or anything like that. Many argue it's hospitality, construction, but we have to see if there are Americans who do want to do those jobs. Yeah. But I just think that, even legal immigration can have impacts too. Let's just say, and I know Uber and Lyft has affected the taxi and limo industry, but if you have too many immigrants that want to become cab drivers, that does have an effect on whether or not, if you get a ride at Caesar's Palace, 5 minutes versus 10 minutes. Because if you immigrants are disproportionately foreign-born are doing those jobs. So that does have an effect. I'm not saying they're the main problem, though, but it does have an effect.
Okay, but I guess my point is I'm not worried so much about too many immigrants coming into this country being cab drivers. You know what I'm worried more about? I'm worried more about people losing their health care.
Affect earnings.
I'm worried more about people losing their health care. I'm worried more about people losing their food stamps. I'm worried more about people having to pay a higher percentage on taxes that make $10 an hour than a billionaire.
Well, I think the way you can solve the wage problem is that in America, we have a minimum wage, but we don't have a maximum wage. And this is where a lot of Republicans disagree with me. We don't have a policy that says a CEO, there's a limit of how much money they can make.
I agree.
And we believe that makes that there's less money for their employees. That also means they can hike prices and not give their bonuses and benefits to their workers.
Who is benefiting the most off of Donald Trump's policies, the richest or the poorest?
I think that, you can make the case that less immigration means less competition, but you can also make that, yes, there are things about his tax proposal that I don't like. I don't think rich people should get tax havens.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to...
but I do agree with his SALT deductions plan, California, so I will give him credit.
Let's go to line 3. Let's go to Tyrone. Tyrone has been waiting patiently on line 3. We're running out of time here, so let's try to get to as many as we can. Hey, Tyrone, go right ahead. You're on with Cyrus.
Hey, good afternoon, Brian and Cyrus. Now,
Tyrone, are you there?
Limited.
Country never exists.
Tyrone.
Hello.
Tyrone.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah. Okay, I know your time is limited. Look, a couple of points. Your guest started off talking about free speech. Well, free speech cannot be regulated by Congress. Doesn't mean that an individual has to listen to what somebody say. You have no right to audience with me. Congress is the only organization that cannot limit speech. I can clearly walk away from anybody that's saying anything that I don't like. Now, the other part of what your guest is saying makes absolutely no sense. In one way, he's a conservative, but he just touted a communist theory of a maximum salary for individuals. That makes no sense.
Well, because people differ economic from social cultural policy. That's why. The political spectrum is very broad, my friend.
I'll tell you, but I'll tell you what I'm against. I'm against a Walmart company that makes billions and billions of dollars paying so many of their employees nothing. I don't like it. It doesn't mean I'm going to tell them what to do, but I just choose not to shop there.
Well, I don't shop there, and I think they're the heart of what's wrong with America. And by the way, they're one of the reasons why our cities are not pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that.
One more thing.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let me say one more thing. You also kept bringing up the issue about traffic in LA and different metropolitan areas.
Not me, my father, and others. Yes.
Your father. Well, you need to educate your father on the fact that the traffic is so bad is because the price point on vehicles has been put to the place where more people have access to cars. It has absolutely nothing to do with immigration.
No, I haven't seen my father. I haven't seen my father since 2006. He did a lot of horrible things to my family. And
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That has nothing to do with...
Even when we were visiting here.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I appreciate the call, sir. Thank you so much for calling into the show. I will
I like to hear other people's points of view and debate.
I understand, and I appreciate. You knew that you were going to come in here, and there's a lot of people that are going to call in that are going to disagree with you. But I'm sorry to hear about that about your father. Just when you told me that your father blamed certain races for the traffic in LA, and that your grandfather was attacking homosexuality as them putting them all in a group of bad people. It's shocking to me that people still think like that, but they do. I'm happy that you don't think that way.
He's very old, and I still love him. And
listen, he's your grandfather, so I understand that. But it's sad that people think that way. But listen, bottom line here, because we got to take a break.
Both of my cousins who live in California voted for Kamala, by the way.
Yeah. All right.
Female cousins. So
listen, it's just I'm glad that you are not one of those.
But can you admit that California has problems and Democrats are to blame?
The country has problems.
No, but California has changed for the worse for the last 50 years. That's my problem with the Democrats. I mean, they have literally, it was the jewel of the world in the 1960s and 70s, and then it went downhill more than any state in America.
It's the highest per capita state in the country, number one. So you're going to have more crime because you have more people.
I'm not talking about crime. I'm talking about the standard of living. I'm talking about the taxes, the economic business climate. I mean, you know that if I want to be a real estate
What's
developer.
your issue with the taxes?
Well, first of all, I think the sales taxes are too high. That's very regressive. Oregon doesn't have sales taxes.
But in this country, the richest people in the world are paying less taxes than people like you and me. That's
agree,
Donald Trump's policy.
Federal is different than state. If the state is too high, then they'll leave.
I know, but if you care about middle class.
I'm talking about sales taxes. Lower the sales taxes. That hurts the poor.
Okay,
Oregon and Delaware doesn't have sales taxes.
Donald Trump's not going to do that.
So California is not really progressive.
Right. Well, to be continued. I would like. We're running out of time here. I would like for you to come back.
But that's my issue with Democrats, though. And if I want to build homes, I moved here to be a real estate developer. I'm looking to change the county lines. A different story. It's easier to get permits for housing in Las Vegas. Actually, even easier to get permits in Chicago than it is in California. And Chicago's a blue city.
Right.
And I think that the Democrats need to look and see that, hey, there's some parts to their party that are kind of ugly.
Well, there's a lot of things in this country that are ugly right now, and I'm not sure I would blame Democrats for a lot of what's going. Last I checked, Republicans are running the House and the Senate right now. There's a lot of people in this country that are struggling. Inflation,
state and local matters.
Sure, but there's a lot of problems in Republican-led states too. And
I agree.
And when you look at California, and you look at the amount of people that live in that state and
climate
and blaming Gavin Newsom for, like, for example, the fires that took place there. And listen,
I didn't say that.
Well, I didn't say you said that, but there's a lot of Republicans that are the first person to do that, and then no responsibility on Donald Trump for anything.
Look, I think when it comes to gas prices, I think California has environmental policies which had an effect, but I think the oil giants used it as an excuse to gouge prices and use the taxes and policies to cover it up. So I think both are responsible. This is why I like to hear from both sides. But again, I lived there since I was 24 years old, and I think that experience is why I think probably Trump got in. Right. I think these people are just victims, and so. But it was
I want you to stick around. I have another guest here, but just stick around here. I'd like to have a conversation with you when the show's over. If you
please,
have
a few
minutes. But on with us right now because we're going to do a divider with me and Nicole. But I do want you to stick around, and I do appreciate you being here, Cyrus. So joining us right now on the show, she joins us every Friday. It's always a pleasure having her on to share some positive stories with us. That would be the former pastor turned OnlyFans model and life coach, Nicole Mitchell, joining us on the show right now. Nicole, it is great to see you as always.
It is so good to see you. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Nicole. It's great to see you. So I have some sad news to share with some of your fans to start. Unfortunately, Nicole was involved in a car accident. Do I have that right, Nicole? Do you want to share that with us?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that.
Me too. Thank you. I'm glad I'm okay. I'm glad the other person is okay. I was just telling my OnlyFans people about it, and I got emotional because, Brian, the guy that I hit, this is my fault. The traffic slammed on the brakes. I slammed on mine. I couldn't stop in time, so I rear ended the guy in front of me. I felt awful. We pulled over, and I come out like profusely apologizing, asking if he is okay, is anyone in his car, if they're okay, and it's thankfully only him. And Brian, he was the nicest guy.
Well, that's good to
So
hear.
friendly, so warm. He's like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "It's okay. Accidents totally happen. Don't even worry about it." And I saw it was a brand new car, Brian. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. You have a brand new car."
But
And
he
he's
was
like,
nice. The
he was
most,
so nice.
the
He was
first,
so nice. And he's like, "It's not my car. I'm driving it to my client who just bought this car." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I broke your client's car." And he's like, "Nicole, we can just get them a new one. It's totally fine. It's all
that's
it's the
cool.
whole time."
The
He
most
was so kind.
important, that's nice to hear. The most important thing when everybody says they're in a car accident, as they say, is everybody okay? Because your health is obviously number one. So I'm glad that everybody's okay. That stuff happens. Have you ever been in a car accident before?
Not since I was a teenager learning to drive. I was like a bad teen driver. So that was like 20 years ago. I've never been in an accident as an adult. And I was really sad to lose that streak yesterday.
Here's a story for you. You ready for this, Nicole? It involves a car accident.
Oh boy.
The last time I talked to my ex-fiance was about 8 or 9 years ago. And she came to Las Vegas. Okay. And she's staying at a hotel. And I was literally on my way to see her in Las Vegas. By the way, I'm sorry, that's my phone making all these.
You're so popular, Brian. Dang.
All these weird noises with these idiots that are sending me messages when I'm on the air. But anyway, I'm on my way to see her. I haven't seen her this was like 8 or 9 years ago. I hadn't seen her in a year after we broke up. And I'm literally on my way to see her, and a lady rear ends me. She felt very bad. I actually messed up my neck pretty good, and I was hurt. But that was God's way of telling me you shouldn't be hanging out with your ex-fiance anymore. So I listened to God. And I'm not a very religious person. So there you go. There's my car accident story.
I stopped this guy from meeting up with his ex later. Did I help this man?
I don't know. Maybe you'd have to ask him on that one. Well, listen, whenever you're in a car accident, you get shaken up. Even if you're not physically harmed, it's a mental thing, and it's never a fun thing. And they call it an accident for a reason, right? It's not like you were Matt Gaetz and you're driving drunk, right? I mean, it's not like you were drinking and driving. That's a heinous crime. But accidents happen, right? Some people by accident they'll go through a stop sign. I would assume you weren't speeding.
Right. We were going like 10, 20 miles per hour, thank God, because we had so much traffic. And just like when they all slammed on the brakes, my cars did not stop in time. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm glad you're okay. And is your car in the shop?
It's in the shop. So we'll see. They said it'll take about a week or two to get an estimate from them and see if my insurance will cover, the whole 9 yards. But hopefully it should all be okay in the end.
Well, I'm glad you're okay. That's most important. What do you got going on this weekend? And I always love your questions to ask me because the fans that listen to this show love the questions that you like to ask me. So you could ask me anything you want.
I love asking you questions, Brian. It's my favorite thing. So real quick this weekend, I'm having a pool party. I'm going to a pool party tomorrow. I love anything with pool. You know that. I love pools, bikinis, swimwear. Brian, we need to get me back out there to you because I'm like, I miss your pool. I want to hang out with you and the friends. So I'm doing that this weekend. We're gonna have lots of girls and lots of bikinis. It's gonna be a great time. Make content for my OnlyFans.
By the way, can I get all your OnlyFans very, very jealous real quickly? Is that okay, Nicole?
Yes.
When you came out here to the pool, you asked me to put lotion on you. I'll leave it at that. And I said yes. But in all seriousness, it was fun. I mean, when I went out to San Diego, we were hanging out on the beach, and that was probably the most relaxed I've been in a very long time. So I have you to thank for that. And she got me a manicure and a pedicure, which I needed desperately. So thank you for that. All right.
You put lotion on me. I will make sure you get your nails done and popped for the ladies. We got each other.
That's a win-win for me, by the way.
Yes.
That's a win-win. Yes, that sounds like a lot of fun. So
you, Brian, recommend to your male listeners right now to have mani-pedis done, to have manicures and pedicures done?
It's good advice because women do care about that stuff. Your breath, your teeth, your feet, your nails. And you have to hate Donald Trump. I've heard that helps me. No, I'm just kidding. Cyrus is laughing at that. I'm just kidding. But it does help, though. But no, in all seriousness. All right, Nicole, you get one question. We only have like 2 minutes here, right? That's less than Donald Trump lasted with Stormy Daniels. So you only get.
Oh my God, I love you. For all the female listeners right now, because you guys all know I'm always trying to hook up Brian. I want to get him the hottest, bestest girl for me because Brian deserves the most incredible human because he's an incredible person. I know it's so hard to limit to one thing what we want from someone, but for the ladies listening, what is like the one thing of many, I'm sure, that's really important to you to have in a partner. So these ladies who are listening, be like, oh, I have that, and I might be a possible candidate, or they're like, oh, I don't have that, so I know I'm not.
Man, that's a tough one.
I know.
I'm going to give you a few. Okay, it's really hard for me to date somebody that's a big Donald Trump supporter. It just can't
that's
happen.
an obvious for you. So
yeah,
that's number one.
Somebody who looks exactly like Marjorie Taylor Greene because she's so attractive. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I would say number one is good communicator, honesty. I'm seeing somebody now that is just such a great communicator, and I love how honest we are with each other, and that is like so important to me. And a woman that wants me to put lotion on her at the pool is also very important to me.
Dang. Okay, ladies, pay attention.
I had to say that. If you're anti-MAGA, that's a turn on for me. It really is. It turns me on. Like if somebody calls Donald Trump Cheeto Jesus, it really gets me.
You're like, I'll get down on one knee.
It gets me stimulated. If you start bashing MAGA Republicans, it gets me very excited. That's like my porn. I have to be honest with you, Nicole. It's a good question, though. So quickly, 30 seconds. What do you got going on this weekend with the family?
Well, I'm doing my pool party, and I'm having a friend. I met someone. So this is like you, Brian. Brian makes connections everywhere he goes. He's so good at meeting people. I was in Montreal last August for the first time ever, and I met a gentleman there, a great gay guy, and we connected so much there that we said, if you ever come to Orange County, let me know and I'll have you over. I've never heard from him again until last week. He's like, I'll be in Orange County. Can I meet up? So he's coming over today, and I'm so excited. But I think of you because Brian can become friends with anyone.
That's true.
At any place, and you are so good at staying in touch with people. So I feel like I just pulled a Brian, and I'm excited to have someone over that I met a year ago.
I like that, and he probably won't be hitting on you, so that might be a plus for you as well.
Gay guys are the best. I love gay guys for so many reasons.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Well, Nicole, I hope you have a lot of fun. Tell your friend I said hello. I can't wait to see you again. I'm going to be out in San Diego at the end of the month, the end of next month, but hopefully you'll get out here soon. Say hello to your wonderful family for me, and we'll talk soon. Okay, looking great as always.
Have a great weekend, Brian.
Thanks, Nicole. Take care. There you go. Nicole Mitchell, everybody. We're glad she's okay. I also want to thank Cyrus for coming on. Hopefully Cyrus will be back on soon. I would like to give him a little bit more time. He got a little ganged up today, but I always like having good debates with people. And Cyrus was nice enough to come in here and do that. And I also proved to Cyrus that unlike some of the other conservative shows that he listens to in Vegas, I actually do have a large audience and I get more than one phone call an hour. So, but I just wanted to throw that out there. But anyway, I appreciate Cyrus being,
Thank you.
I also want to thank Mark for doing a good job on the board. We hope that Numchuck feels better. Numchuck has been a little bit under the weather, and Mark Hayes, the program director here, does a great job, and he's been board opping for me for the last couple of days. And this is not the easiest show to board op. Okay, I'll be the first one to admit that with the phone calls and the audio and everything else I'm doing. So Mark's done a great job, so we appreciate him. We will be back at it, ladies and gentlemen, on Monday. Quickly, what am I doing this weekend? As if anybody cares, I'm having a huge dinner with a bunch of friends tonight. My friend Andrew is going to be cooking it up. I have a date that I'm very much looking forward to tomorrow. And then Sunday, hopefully I'll be putting lotion on somebody. I don't know. Maybe it'll be George Santos. Anyway, thanks for being here. I appreciate it, Cyrus.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys Monday. Have a good one, everybody.